Hey, good morning. I'm at the Rockefeller Center here in Grand Teton National Park. This was a 3,000 acre preserve that was gifted to Grand Teton National Park and the government back in 2001. And today we're going to run right around the lake. Still got some snow on the peaks. I was here 3 weeks ago and saw a bear. So this first 2 miles is prime bear habitat. So we're going to be on the lookout. Let's go. It's all closed up for the season, but this is the little lodge that the Rockefellers built before they gifted the land to the park. They wanted to do it their way. Usually there's a bunch of scat all over this trail, kind of the first mile or two, but nothing today. It's probably a little too late in the season. Bears have moved on, looking for more food. This is kind of easy pickings for them, so they hit this first and then move on. So not looking good to see a bear today. Well, we're at the tip of Phelps Lake. We're gonna run clockwise all the way around the lake and back to the trailhead. I'm about 3/4 of the way around the lake. Right over in there, there's a huge rock that everybody comes in the summer to jump off into the water, and the water's always cold. We're going to find that rock. We're going to talk about how you can test your hip flexor strength and your glute medius strength to see if you are overworking the hip flexor and not utilizing your glute as well as you can be. Ultimately, we can do away with IT band trouble, tight hip flexors, and all kind of the dysfunction that maybe goes on with a lot of runners. So that's what we're going to dive in today. But first, we're not diving into the water, but we're going to run around the lake. Let's go. And you probably can't see, but the sun is shining on a rock way over there. We're coming up on the junction of Death Canyon, which is one of the 5 canyons that go into the Tetons. And it's called Death Canyon because it's very narrow, very dark, and in the summer very, very hot, just like an oven. So we're gonna head over to Death Canyon, but then continuing around the lake. Since we're going around the lake, for the most part, this trail is really flat and fast, especially on the second half of the section where it's not as technical, but just had a little bit of a climb to get the legs going and get the heart rate elevated. And coming up here on halfway around the lake, and you often hear about avalanche danger in the winter. This is an avalanche area. You can just see the devastation as we run through it. It just came whipping right down here and just took out all these trees. Look at, they just snapped those trees. You can really see it here. Crazy. It's like a bulldozer of snow. So here's our junction. We're gonna go this way around the lake, up here, and up that rock cut is Death Canyon. That, like I mentioned, goes up into the Tetons. One of the 5 canyons that go right up into the Tetons. All right, back to Phelps. And you can see the trail really mellows out from all the rock, and this is a really fast return trip. So fun, slightly downhill even, but off to the rock. See you at the rock. Here bees the rock. And you know, it's gonna be super windy out here. Let's see. There's Death Canyon. Here's the rock. Here's the diving platform. I think, because it's so windy, I think I'm gonna get some shelter and we'll talk hip flexors and IT. Sorry for the tease, but I think that's gonna be better audio. Actually, this is gonna be pretty sweet, actually even better. Sweet, all right. Hip flexors and IT. This is the vicious cycle I see many runners having. We often hear, hey, tight hip flexors, tight IT trouble. We're gonna talk about maybe some of the root causes, but how you can test for your strength and some quick, easy exercises to help with the problem. All right, so the first one, let's talk. My goggles are fogging up from my digital glasses. So first one, hip flexors. Let's attack the hip flexors. How do our hip flexors get tight? And I can stand up and talking about this area right in here, okay? Its job is to lift the leg. How do they get tight? One major culprit is just from sitting too much. We're seated, we shorten this area, and that shortening just causes some tightness, but more importantly, it causes weakness. Another culprit is a poor functioning glute medius, which is that muscle right there in between your front pocket and your back pocket. Right there. This job is to stabilize the legs. If we have poor glute activity and stabilization, our hip flexor can be pulled and called to help stabilize the leg, which also causes tightness. So what do we do about it? One, let's test to see if this maybe is a weakness for you. Try this drill. This drill is to help detect if you have the ability to lift your leg high and to keep it high as you're hopping. And if you, the key to this drill is to hop controlled, but to keep the knee and the leg as high as possible without it drifting down. If you have a hard time hopping forward or hopping even just in place and having that knee remain high, that's a sign of poor or weak hip flexors. So try this drill out, try it several times to see if you have a hard time holding that knee really high. If that's the case, again, that's kind of a sign of poor strength in your hip flexors. So that drill also will help with the problem. So you can do that as a corrective action plan. Do it in the middle of a run, do it as a warm-up, do it whenever. Okay, it's great. It's a great drill in general, but again, in this specific case, it's great for strengthening the hip flexor. And it'll help stabilize the other leg. So we're hitting both legs in a different way. Got a little raven coming up into the tree. Okay, so another great exercise is just standing in place and lifting that knee as high as you can. And then do what I call pulsing, where you're just moving it up and down, very short range of motion, but rather quickly, and doing that maybe 20, 25, 30 times to create some fatigue in the hip flexor. Okay, short range of motion. We don't want to go all the way down, all the way up. Just keep it high and then maybe down to 90 degrees. And then, second one, lift the knee high again and then kick out back and forth, keeping that knee as high as you can. And again, if you're got the raven, the raven's talking to us. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by wildlife. It's a good distraction. So again, doing these exercises, if you get a lot of fatigue, it's great in itself, but this will let you know that maybe weak hip flexors are something that you need to really work on. Okay, let's hit the IT. Okay, this gets tight. Maybe sometimes you're feeling knee pain here at the outside of the knee, but this area is tight. First and foremost, don't roll it. The IT band is a very thick band that's very, very hard to roll, and it really is not going to do you any good. In a lot of cases, by rolling it, you're just going to irritate it more. So do not roll or stretch the IT, okay? What we want to do is attack glute strength, okay? And the other part of this is that right here is your TFL. That also will get tight. Okay, it's kind of right above where your front pocket might be. And you can maybe massage that area and see if it's tight. That's a good area to massage. Okay, because what's happening is if this TFL gets tight, this gets shortened and it pulls your leg out, causing a lot of the issues. But how does that get tight? Well, your glute's not working very well. Your glute medius. Stabilizer, like we talked earlier. So how do we attack the glute? Let's first do a diagnostic. Let's do what I call the running lunge. This is just a simple run motion done as a lunge to allow you to do a lot of things. This is a drill I use, but this is a great functional drill to detect how well you can stabilize with your glute. So you're simply executing this drill or this exercise, nice, slow and controlled, and just see how well you're able to execute it. Are you getting thrown off balance? Do you have a hard time keeping your balance? This is showing poor stability. And most runners really need to work on this. So even though you might be able to do these fairly well, I think attacking the glute and creating better stability is still going to be something that you want to attack as a runner, just to become better and stronger, okay? So try that running lunge to see how well you can execute it. That'll give you an indication how well or how poorly you're able to stabilize in the glute, okay? And then a simple exercise to help with that strength is to find a wall. And this will help with your IT. So it's going to help with the whole vicious cycle of poor glute stability, IT band issues, tight TFL, and tight hip flexors. Will round everything out that we're talking about. So find a wall, turn to the side of the wall. In this case, I'm using a bleacher, but the bleacher can be a wall, and you're going to stand on the leg that's on the outside furthest away from the wall or the bleacher or the bench. And I'm gonna stand on that leg while I'm pushing into the wall or the bench. I'm not pushing very hard, but I'm just steady pressure as I perform a squat with that outside leg. Okay? Do this 20, 30 times. By pushing against the wall or the bench, you're creating a stability challenge for the outside leg that will really isolate the glute. So you should really feel it in the glute as you begin to do this and repping it out. Okay? So great exercise for stability, as with all my foot strength and all the drills I'm going to be doing over winter inside and everything I talk about foot strength. Okay, and let's end with that point, is that a lot of this too, tight hip flexors, tight IT band, comes from poor form. More importantly, in how we're striking the ground. Okay, how we use our feet when we strike the ground directly relate to how well or how poorly we're firing muscles all the way up through the hip. Could be even downhills. You know, running poorly, heel striking downhill is one of the #1 culprits of tight IT band trouble, because now you're really using the eccentric loading on the downhill to create instability at the glute, which then puts all the stress on the IT and the TFL and the hip flexor. Okay, so try this out, hope it helps, and get on a good path of good strength over the winter. All right. And remember, when we're tight, it's usually a strength solution. Stretching very rarely takes away the issue. Hope this helps. See you next time.